those who haven't seen the other videos, this is my 2004 BA Fairmont gear. I am currently in the process of doing something I have never done before, and that is respraying this car with absolutely no experience. And so far, it seems to be going mostly okay. In the previous two videos, I gave a rundown of the plans of respraying this car, and I resprayed a test bumper, the bonnet, as well as the guards for this car. I won't talk about it too much. If you're interested, I really recommend you go check out the other two videos. So since then, what have I done? As noted in the other videos, the front bar that I had was only a test piece, so I drove across the other side of the city to grab a new aftermarket front bar. Some people may ask why I didn't go genuine. Well, the prices of the genuine bars are a little bit expensive, and this one was only $180 and it comes pre-primed, which should limit the amount of work I need to put in to get it painted. Whilst I was there, I also picked up a set of fog lights for the car with the halo ring, as from factory, my car didn't have any fog lights and I want to have these added to the XR bar. With the front bar now home, I opened it up to have a look. I was unfortunately a little bit disappointed to find that the bar did have some scuffs on it, so it looks like there will be some work involved before I can lay some paint on this. That being said, it would still be a lot less work compared to buying a front bar that's in a different colour and having to sand it back and deal with all the damage of the bar that's been sitting on a car for a very long time. So I'm a little bit annoyed, but it's still not as much work as it could be. Putting the front bar to one side, the guards that I painted a few weeks ago are now dry enough for me to comfortably put them on the car. As you can see, I did run some tape along the edges just so I didn't inadvertently chip the paint when I smacked it up against another panel when trying to get it on. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit anxious fitting this piece. A number of people in the comments section below said painting metallics one at a time will always lead to a dramatic colour difference, so I was a little bit concerned that put up against the paint of the bonnet that it wasn't going to match. When doing my research for this project, I read on some forums that as long as you paint the panels in the correct orientation they go on the car and use the same paint mix, it should be okay, and that is the logic I was banking on. Maybe someone with a really keen eye can spot a difference between the colours, but I think this matched pretty well. I may have gotten a little bit ahead of myself and fit the other guard and my test front bar without doing any filming. As I have said multiple times, this is by no means perfect, but I think I'm pretty happy with how this is coming along. If you look closely at the panels, there is still orange peel, there is still crap in the paint, and some runs. I am going to give these a go at fixing up with some wet sanding, but I'm just giving the panels a full 4 weeks to cure before I do that. I also did a test fit of the aftermarket bar that I bought just to make sure it was okay, and it looks like it fits well enough. Probably not as good as a factory bar, but it's going to save me a lot of time and hassle when getting it painted when it comes time. With all the test fitting completed, I then attached the Aggressor aftermarket pods that I have for my BA XR6 bar. This involves some careful marking and then drilling to ensure that the pods fit up snug against the bar. For anyone who's interested, I also purchased these from Aussie Parts, but well over a year ago when I originally planned on just getting an XR bar and painting it silver. Alright, that's enough show and tell. Let's do some painting. Due to personal time constraints, I haven't really had a chance to paint any of the big pieces on the car, so I figured I'd smash out some of the smaller trim items while I had a little bit of time on my hands. Starting with the mirrors, I pulled these off the car and gave them a wet sand with a bit of 320 grit sandpaper. I used a sponge to interface between my fingers and the sandpaper just so I didn't dig in with my fingers. The objective here is to sand down the panel to give something for the fresh paint to stick to. Once sanded, instead of opting for the spray gun, I've instead chosen to move to rattle cans for the smaller pieces. It's just a lot easier than setting everything up for the normal spray gun. This MTN filler primer from Supercheap is generally my go-to. I find that the spray nozzles on the MTM cans are generally really good, and the filler primer actually does a pretty good job at filling. It's worth being aware that this doesn't have a hardener in it, so it's not as hardy as say a 2K primer, but for these small pieces I'm not too worried. For priming the mirrors, I just went with 3 coats, allowing plenty of time in between for the primer to flash off before going for the next coat. As you can see here, the primer has laid pretty well, but when I zoom in, you can see that there are a couple little specks in the paint. But this isn't the final step, because I'm going to give these a wet sand to really smooth them out. Using 800 grit sandpaper, I wet sanded these pieces down and then cleaned them up with wax and grease remover, ready for the base coat. Speaking of the base coat, I'm painting these mirrors in Dark Argent. I'm planning on doing some of the little trim pieces in the Dark Argent paint just to make it look a little bit different. It may not work out for me, but we'll see how we go. It's worth a shot, I guess. Using this Rattle can, I did 3 coats on each of the mirrors. The finish I got straight out of the can was actually surprisingly good. These are only small pieces, so I'm not too worried about orange peel, but it had less than I expected. Unfortunately for me, after getting the base coat on, the weather changed and I had to pack up and take everything inside. So what you are seeing currently doesn't have any clear. Unfortunately, the weather has just been kind of crap where I live, so I'm waiting for a nice clear day to come back and do the clear. So for a series about painting my car, I do apologise that there hasn't been a lot of painting in this video. So despite that, hopefully the weather improves and I can get back to painting some of the bigger items on this car and take you guys along for the ride. As always, thank you so much for watching. This series has gotten a lot more interest than I expected. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below and I'll do my best to get back to you.